for that. In a way, he felt like he was the reason that his brother came overseas to serve and that his brother died. That was a very difficult time. Actually sitting in the room listening to him discuss this. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this, but this is a picture of his brother Sterling. And this is a picture of the family marker where his mother and father are buried. And in the center it says Sterling Canar, and it says that he is buried in Belgium, and it has his birth and his death dates, but they wanted to make sure on the family monument that he was going to be recognized. In Belgium, this is his actual marker. It's not a very good picture. When I enlarged it, it does say Sterling Canar on the front of it, and that he was KIA, but it's very difficult. Like I said, when I enlarged it, you can't really see it. Some other pictures I have. Here is a larger picture of Sterling, his brother. I actually have a picture of Orville in uniform. It's the only one that I have. And I have some other pictures, including, unfortunately to say, Orville's monument at Fort Indiantown Gap National Cemetery in Annville, Pennsylvania. Orville and I became very close. We shared a lot of things, a lot of personal stories, a lot of quality time together, both when I was still a student and when I was not. Orville told me that he could see, he could see great potential in me, and he knew that I could go as far as I wanted to go. And I promised myself I was not going to cry doing this. In March of 2012, I was in Western Pennsylvania visiting family in Somerset County, and I received a phone call, a number I did not recognize, on my cell phone, and I answered it, and it was his son Neil. And Neil had informed me that Orville had passed away, and we cried together on the phone for some time, and Neil gave me the information on the funeral arrangements, and that I was most definitely invited. And I certainly made a point of attending the funeral service, and it was the very first military funeral that I ever attended, and it was the most beautiful funeral I've ever attended. The procession went from the funeral home in Myerstown, and we took some winding back roads to Indiantown Gap National Cemetery. And because at the time there was no actual monument, no stone for him yet, all of the veterans were receiving small bronze plaques with their names on them and with numbers that would stay. Excuse me, I need to get a tissue. At the site of their internment. So the service was actually held at a memorial building. They did the 21-gun salute. They did the folding and the presenting of the flag, which is something I know it would have been rather rude to do, but I wish in the worst way that I had been able to video the service, that there was an actual video record of the service, because it was very, very touching. There were people there, some staff that had taken care of Orville. There were family there. I was there, a couple family friends, a few veterans attended. And after the presentation of the flag, and the family was mingling, and they were talking with some of the people who had come to attend the service, I heard my name, and I turned and I looked, excuse me, and the minister said, I have to ask you a question. Would you be Jessica? And I looked at him and I said, yes. And he goes, but would you be the right Jessica? And I said, Jessica number 1 or Jessica number 2? And he said, well, which one are you? And I said, I was called Jessica number 2. He said, but you were really Jessica number 1. And I said that I was. And he proceeded to tell me that when he would go to visit Orville at the home, Orville would talk about me. He would tell him, about the times that I was there when I was a student, and also how kind I was to come back and visit him and bring my family. And I can tell you that my husband, his son, and I learned so much about World War II. Probably more than we needed to know. He was very graphic. He was very honest. He was very truthful, which I appreciate. We heard funny stories as well as some very serious stories. But I also found out that Orville pretty much told everybody he came into contact with about me. His daughter-in-law knew about me. His grandson knew about me. Everyone that came to visit him knew about me. He had 2 roommates while I was a nursing student there. One of them passed away, and the other one came in probably the 2nd or 3rd day that he was there. I came in, and when I started to talk, he said, let me guess, your name has to be Jessica. And I got to know him, and his wife very well, and the rest of his family. He was still there after Orville passed away, but Orville, as some of the other residents like to say, took a shine to me. And at one point, one thing that I find very funny is my husband was sitting there with me one visit when my son was unable to go. And my husband knew the whole saga about Orville from day one. And Orville reached over and grabbed my hand because whenever I came into the room, I always had to sit on the side of the bed next to him. I was not allowed to sit in a chair, not allowed to stand. I had to sit on the side of the bed next to him so he could hold my hand. And he always had to hug me and kiss me. And we were in the middle of a hug, and I could tell he was trying to get my husband's attention. And when he finally did, he said, Steve, you can go ahead and leave. He said, I'm taking your wife. And my husband started to laugh. Of course, he said, no, I'm serious. I'm keeping your wife. You can go ahead and leave. She's just going to stay here with me from now on. And it was kind of nice in a way that this gentleman sort of was flirting with me, and as he said, he had a crush on me, even though he couldn't really see what I looked like. He knew that he was going to like me, and that I could stay as long as I wanted to stay. And the only other woman that he had ever loved besides his wife Laura was when he was in Germany. He met a young lady that he dated, and he cared for her a great deal. And he actually wrote a Dear Jane letter home to Laura to tell her that he was no longer going to be dating her. When he came home from the army, he was going to be bringing this young lady with him, and they were going to be married. Well, things did not turn out that way, and Orville came home and he did marry Laura. However, the young woman that he dated in Germany and her husband would make frequent visits to the United States to visit both Orville and Laura. And they actually sent a very, very touching floral arrangement and tribute to the funeral home when they knew that Orville had passed away. Orville is just a very, very unique person. He brought so much light to my life. He made parts of nursing school bearable because it could be very intense, especially being an older student. I was one of 5 mature students in a classroom of 30, I believe 33, 35 students, and we had the old school RN nurses who were our instructors, but it was just very difficult because I was with all these young, as he put them, whippersnappers, and we oldsters had to keep the younger ones in line, and at times it was very tough, and Orville could tell that I was stressed out, and he would find some way to make me laugh, some way to make me smile. Even when I couldn't get down to see Orville, I would send cards to him and letters, and the staff would make sure that he read the cards, or they read the cards to him. I sent him a stuffed animal for Easter per his request, and that stuffed animal sat next to him on his chair until he passed away. I also brought him down a small American flag, and I put it in his hands, and he felt it, and he started to tear up because he hadn't had an American flag in his room for some time, and that hung on his bulletin board along with every single card that I had ever sent him, every letter that I had sent him. And he told me that, if he had a picture of me, he would put the picture up, but since he had a picture in his mind that was good enough, that was what he was going to go with. I didn't think this was going to be as difficult, but it is. Every Memorial Day, I go to see Orville. It's been, hard to believe, 3 years since he has passed away. And each Memorial Day, I take down some token, a flag, some kind of tribute, and I place it, at his marker. And I always make sure to contact his son and to let him know that I was there. I send his son pictures of me being there. The motorcycle processional that goes through to honor the veterans, the pictures of the flags, the Memorial Day tributes. And his son is very touched that I keep in contact with him and that I go to visit his father every Memorial Day. And Orville's birthday is the 22nd of December, so around Christmas time, it's a little bit of a sensitive time here. Also alluding to the fact that my husband's father was born on Christmas Day and he passed away in the year 2000. So the combination of missing my father-in-law at Christmas and missing Orville at Christmas because the birthdays were so close together is a little difficult. But had I not gone back to nursing school, or had I not gone to nursing school after being laid off of 9 years at a job, I would have missed out on one of the greatest adventures, the most important parts of my life, one of the most thrilling parts of my life. And I am very privileged and very honored to have met this man. He is always going to be in here. No one's ever going to take that away from me. And I really don't know what else to say. I apologize for the tears, but I warned you in the email that this was going to happen. I can't sit and talk about Orville without crying at some point throughout. I practiced and I practiced, but it just didn't work. One thing I did want to say, and I should have mentioned this earlier, is that when Orville was telling me about his brother Sterling, I did some research on Sterling's career in the military, his background, and where he had served, and his internment. And Orville did not tell me where he was buried. He did not tell me exactly the circumstances surrounding his brother's death, anything of that nature. But I took it upon myself to do some research, and I found 2 full pages of information on Sterling that one day I went